I got to come over here and see if it pulls in.
Okay, that's a great way to start. We do need to get some fun music.
I know we do. Yeah.
What we need to do is get more hours in the day.
Yeah. Okay, but we're live almost on both right now.
Excellent.
All right.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Political Head Trauma, where
if Head Trauma had a podcast, it would sound like this.
I'm Holly. This is Jared, and we are so glad that you were with us tonight. I'm sorry that we missed you last week. It was completely my fault. I got struck down by the gumbo, and it took me out. I couldn't talk. I barely could get out of bed. And I know it's going around. So for those of you that are dealing with it, you think you get better after 1 week, and then it slams and hits you on the ground even worse on the second week. But I'm feeling much better. And thank you to those of you that reached out to me. That was so nice. And I apologize that I was not here, but we are here tonight, and we had a guest in mind, but they weren't able to make it tonight. So we are hoping that we'll get them on next week. So tonight, Jared and I are going to go over what's going on in the country. And we ask that you tune in with us tonight. Leave your comments.
Oh, yeah. Please.
I know you all have some.
Well, I have big, hi, Sherry.
Hi,
I have big questions tonight. Because I've been in a couple of light debates, and so I have questions about stuff, and yeah, that's just where I'm at.
Oh, I think how do you want to start? Should we talk about the interview last night? Should we talk about then go into what's happening in the world right now with Elon and Tesla? I mean, we are going to go all over the place tonight, but I really want to keep it with what's going on maybe over the past couple weeks, because there's so much every day. If you haven't noticed, just when you think you've heard it all, it's something else comes out, good and bad. So good and bad. But it feels like we are going in the right direction. And at least for me, I attended a Braver Angels blue and red discussion. I wasn't on the panel this time. And one thing that and this was Saturday, I was really surprised at how many times Elon Musk's name came up. And I was really in a negative way. And then I was also surprised at the leaning red folks that were, one of the questions was, do you think President Trump is showing leadership in his first 100 days? And even some of the red were so against him. That surprised me, because that's not my experience. Now, maybe it's because I am so involved with Republicans, and I try not to put myself in a bubble where I'm only hearing from my own people. I try to put myself in places where I'm hearing both sides. But I think if he's ever shown leadership in his life, it's been these last 60-something days that he's been in office. I think since he was shot, I think we've seen him more humbler and more direct and passionate, and just, I think he's just inspired leader. He's been a very great leader, in my opinion. I'm not sure what you all think. I would love to hear it. But what are your thoughts?
Okay.
Just on whether if you think he's been a good leader. Just to start.
I've got nothing against Elon Musk. Again, I think he's probably the most important human alive right now. I do think that Donald Trump should have done the Doge, but not put Elon Musk forward. But maybe he did that to goad the left into hazard, which obviously it worked, because we're going to be talking about that later. I don't know if
It's just a leadership question. Do you think he's showing good leadership?
um
I mean, I didn't know I was going to stump you like this. Of course, you are doing a lot of setup right now.
yeah. Okay. So, oh, dang it. Yeah, I keep
Do you want me
trying.
to fill in?
Well, hold on. I'll do this here in a second. We should have soft starts where we just gab and then I go into the hard stuff so I can do this
This
setup.
was a soft start.
No,
I just
this
wanted
isn't
to
a
know
soft
if
start.
he's showing leadership.
Could he possibly be going too hard? I don't know. I know that Doge, he's got a time limit with that. And he's got to perform by midterms. If he doesn't perform by midterms, it doesn't matter. It'll flip to
Who?
Congress.
Elon or Trump?
Trump. It'll flip to Congress, and then it doesn't matter. Everything he's done will be for naught, including everything he does during Doge. They'll just bring everything back carte blanche.
That is Congress.
That's what I'm saying.
Congress has to get this stuff
No.
settled. Trump's doing the work. He's
Sure,
got to have Congress
sure,
back it up so
but-
that a new person
Sure,
comes in
but
can't
if
reverse
if
it.
Trump doesn't perform, it'll flip to Congress. That's just downright. But so, and of course, it'd be nice if we did this setup first because we'd have more people listening and then we'd have more people interacting.
That's true. Well, it'll
Yeah.
give some people some time to interact.
Oh, they'll miss all of this.
So let's do this. You do this setup, and I'm
Okay.
going to talk about something else, something
Yes.
off topic. Jared and I were talking recently, or just earlier, about businesses, local businesses, state businesses, national businesses. We want to know you, just like the ladies that we had the pleasure of interviewing from Virtual Horizon.
Getting to know.
With the show we did 2 weeks ago. I thought it was a fantastic show. If you haven't watched it yet, please do. The idea
The ladies doing the Virtual Horizons. The
charter school.
It's a virtual reality school, so it's going to be a school that's going to have. I mean, think
You're
about.
supposed to be posting.
I know. Gosh, one of the holdups. I've been fired up about this for 2 weeks now. One of the holdups of a small town school is you don't have the ability to have high level classes, and something like this where the classroom is brought to you through an Oculus system, that they can bring such better teachers to more people, and they can do it without having the teacher have to uproot and move down to the Four Corners, or having the teacher have to, even move out to Vernon and things like that.
Oh,
I mean,
you can get the
Vernon.
best of the best, and they
Yeah.
can teach from their homes. And what's beautiful is this is the learning. It brings learning to a new level, and interactive learning, where most of us know, if you have been in a situation, and most of us had a class somewhere where the teacher did something that was interactive, and you'll remember the subject. And I mentioned before, there was Constitutional Convention for me. They reenact it in 5th grade. That was amazing. I'll never forget it. And another one was my poli-sci class in college, where we were each handed a certain, one was given the weapons, and your group had the weapons. This group has water. This group has food. And this group has resources for shelters and things. So your basics. And the whole idea of the class was you have to figure out how you're going to either merge or alienate or deal and wheel. And it was the people with the weapons that was my group, getting everyone to the table, because we could take anything from anyone, but we wanted to bring them in because they could provide food to our people. We could provide protection to them from other people. Those type of learning experiences stay in your brain. And for an interactive VR experience for a young person to be able to learn history, art, music, just reading and reading novels, but interactive experience. I think this is such a huge, huge thing. And I love that our little county has these brilliant minds who came up with an idea, they saw a problem and they solved it and realized that it could solve a lot of problems. Not just that, but it could enhance children's learning to a level that even the best teachers in the best schools may not be able to do. And they could do it for a tenth of the cost. And you could do it from your own home, or you could have these VR classrooms in schools, but you don't need giant schools. You literally have a charter that your child attends.
You can do it at home. It can be one neighborhood basement, anywhere where they can get a Wi-Fi connection, essentially. Libraries, if you have a small town library, say even like Tooele, say Tooele doesn't offer, we'll talk about it in the matter of language. Say Tooele doesn't offer a class on Nigerian and a student wants to take it. That student would be able to go to the library and source a Nigerian instructor during school time and take a class on, Nigerian.
I mean, it's amazing. I just can see, imagine reenacting the Civil War, reenacting the Revolutionary War. But how about reenacting the World War II from Russia's perspective, what was happening in the world, or going back to Julius Caesar, going as far back as Jesus and him and his death. I mean, not that they would necessarily teach that in school, but if you wanted to teach your child something like that, this interaction that this VR world is putting, that is the future. And our kids, our Gen Alphas, are in that future. They are already used to it. They already know it. And I just think this is an opportunity that it may not work for every kid. And I think the age of the kid is highly important.
And it may not work for every class, every subject.
Right. But if anyone has never been in a VR, when you put one on, your senses are such that, I know mine starts out where it looks like I'm sitting in a movie theater. The screen is so far back and I'm sitting in stadium seating and I'm in an empty theater, and everywhere I look, it looks and feels like I'm in an empty theater. Then I can just switch it. Now I'm sitting on a beach. The sounds, the birds, the waves, and it's so realistic. Like I said in the show, that people that are afraid of heights will try these VR apps where they're actually walking in high places to try to get over their fear of heights and walk through it. And some jerk in their family will just get up behind them and shove them. But it is so intense that you really feel like you're there, which is why it's new age, right? It's not like you're looking at a video game. You're in the video game.
Mm-hmm.
So I really think that you should check out Virtual Horizons Charter School. We've got a post on our page. Check out our show from 2 weeks ago with Kim and Angie. It was one of my favorite shows we've ever done. And knowing these people personally and knowing the intent behind this, it is beautiful. It's beautiful that they created this. So that is one business that's Tooele County based, but growing. And we are happy to assist if we can. We are looking to get our viewers as much information as we can. And so I do want to bring that up. I also want to talk about right now, spring is sprung. Guys, it was 75 degrees 2 days ago. And then it was 60 today. So I know we're going into that in Utah. If you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes. We're going into that like realm of weather. And I think last year we had snow in May, and then it was really crazy, but I'm hopeful that we get lots of water next month, because we do need the water, but I'm excited that here we are. People are going to be going outside more, and they're going to be looking potentially, especially if you live in Stansbury Park, for help with those darn mosquitoes. And I have a business for you. The business is called Mosquito Shield, and we're going to share it on our page, so watch for it. You can go to the website, moshield.com, and basically they can come out to your place, they can give you a bid, and they're pretty incredible. They can get mosquitoes up to a half an acre for the same price, and it lasts you for the summer. I like 2 treatments last you for the summer. It's a phenomenal way. In Salisbury, they already have come out. They were at the home show. They've got my neighbors going. I'm having them come out for a bid. I wish they could do gnats, because gnats are so much higher, but mosquitoes right now are just, and when you live around water, you guys know what I'm talking about. If you have a body of water near you at all, especially shallow water. I'm going to share it on the page, so watch for that ad, but reach out to either of us, we'll get you information if you need it.
We need to have him, I don't know, do a little blurb for us telling us what he does, and is it pet safe? What needs to be done?
Oh yeah, we'll have him do
we'll have him do
short video. In fact,
we'll have him call in one time when we're on.
If you have a small business, if you have a large business, and you would like to participate in the show, I have a dear friend who's about to open a restaurant here in Tooele, and I'm so excited for her. And I would love to.
Hold on. Tell me more.
Right? It's going to be fresh food. It's salads and sandwiches, and it's going to be like a cafe here in Tooele near the downtown. I don't want to spill too much, because she just told me, but I had worked with her through so many things. And I think Tooele County would do well to have some fresh food that's not going to break the bank and that is healthy. I think that a lot of people are looking at healthy and delicious, what are you doing now?
Setting up a new phone, because it's telling me to.
Doing a panoramic.
It wants to do the face thing.
So pay attention to the page, and we will invite Mosquito Shield on, and Dustin, who is running that company. I love him because he's my family.
Yeah.
And he does really great work.
Yeah. If you got questions about that, get on it now before the mosquitoes come out hard. Maybe we could all get together and pull a little bit of money and see if we can't have them go out to Horseshoe and make it so we can fish out there this summer.
Where's Horseshoe?
Out in Skull Valley.
Oh, I bet that is messy with mosquitoes.
That's where the mosquitoes are born.
And Stansbury, when spring hits, and many of you that are new to Stansbury, surprise, when you go for a walk, especially in the evening or morning, you'll get a mouthful of gnats. I mean, you walk through these clusters, and it's just the nature of the beast. When you lived here as long as I have in Stansbury, I'm used to it. Mosquitoes, when you're on the lake, it's a different ball game. So treating your yard, and I didn't even know this was possible, that you could treat mosquitoes in the yard, but it works. And Mosquito Shield is really got great reviews, and people really love what they do. So I would just highly recommend it for you to check them out. Look on our page for that, and I can give Jared the website, and we'll put it in the show notes. Does that work?
Yes.
On YouTube. So.
All right. So we are back onto the subject. I got that stuff done.
Are we ready then?
Okay. I've heard a couple people who are distinctly on the conservative side, or you can call it the right wing side, or whatever. Talk about how they're concerned about how some of the actions Donald Trump is doing is not just pushing the left away, but possibly splitting and pushing away independence.
What is he doing that's
Specific?
splitting them?
They feel like he's being overly antagonistic, so he's not soft pedaling out in the beginning. Now, I will tell you, the person I heard put this the best was Carl Benjamin on Tim Pool's show the other night. Now, of course, this could be a strategy where he goes hard now. He's got what, 2 years before midterms. Honestly, a year and a half before midterms when he can really settle it. So a year before midterms, he goes hard now, and then he does moves on that, the last half of the 2-year term, or the last year of it, to draw them back in, to hopefully ensure that his party or his ideals secure the day again during the midterms. That could be, one of his plays. I don't know. It does also feel like he's kind of baiting the left or the progressives into hazard, and we will definitely talk about those. Those are two of the things I want to talk about.
When you say baiting the left,
baiting them into hazard, being baited into hazard. January 6th was the right wing being baited into hazard. All the maneuvers there, everything that's come out, they were baited into hazard on that. So
what is he doing to bait them?
Well, with them,
this is what I got hung up on.
The Doge
discussion.
stuff. The Doge stuff baids the left into hazard. Now, when you went to this Greater Angels or whatever, because I guess was it 2 weeks ago, Celeste was in town again, and in The Hill did a story on it in Salt Lake, and
Mike Kennedy.
In Salt Lake, it sounds like a lot of the people are nervous about Donald Trump and Doge and shutting down departments of the government. But if you live in a urban setting, whether you're conservative or progressive, in that urban setting, you're still going to have a favorable opinion of the government because you have more favorable interactions with them. Whereas us out here, the only time we see the government is when they're coming to rob us blind, So,
other than our local government, I mean, I see them all the time.
Sure, you do, because you're in politics.
I mean, I see them out at honestly, like the gas station or the grocery store.
No. What I mean is the government as an entity, not the specific elected politicians. The only time I deal with our county government is when I get a letter saying, "Oh, your taxes went up X percent."
Spoiler alert.
So you see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Where our government do not offer a lot of in-your-face services out here. Yes, they do snow removal in the winter and some parks upkeep, but I don't go to parks very often. My kid's 30. I have no reason to go to a park anymore.
There's police and fire.
Sure, police and fire. I haven't had the fire department call to my house yet.
Well, what time is it?
I'm hoping that I don't get to experience that.
Some of us have,
and the police, yes, and the police. I haven't had to deal with the police on any level in years. So you see what I'm saying? So I don't have any of those interactions. So all of my interactions with the government are negative. Whereas in the city, you have other interactions that are more positive, such as, even if it just boils down to the transportation in there,
Yeah, or the
Or
local festival the government is kind
things
of put together for the city, or
things that go on.
you
Yeah.
see law enforcement like out and about
Yeah.
more.
I mean, you'll see them, of course I see police officers as I drive down the road, but I don't, the interaction is mostly on that tactile interaction.
Can I just say the Congresswoman Malloy and Congressman Mike Kennedy, they're the only two Congress people I've heard doing these town halls, and they did go into the belly of the beast, if we're being honest.
Yeah, they did.
The bluest
And
part of the state
yes.
is located in that area, and it was volatile. And I've seen this myself when Chris Stewart came out to Davis County and did a town hall. Celeste has promised, as is Mike Kennedy, to do town halls often. Celeste did one last month here in Tooele and Grantsville. I think she was in Grantsville.
She was in Grantsville, last month.
This month in Salt Lake. So she's doing what she said
she was also in Salt Lake last month. Now she's going to go to Salt Lake more often because there's more interaction to be done there.
And Southern Utah also. She's
yes. There's more people.
But nobody else is doing that.
But
that I've seen.
So what they're saying is they're afraid that he's not doing anything that draws in. Now, of course, Carl Benjamin is British. He's from England.
Well, then I don't even care what he thinks.
Him, you probably should. Him, you should.
They're not making the best choices in England either.
Oh, he's the one who's been running against that. He's the one. That Sargon of Akkad is his name on the.
Is he the one that is he a representative there?
No.
Okay, so he didn't.
He ran for office, but he lost. But he's the one who has probably the best conservative pulse of all of Europe right now. He's probably the one. Him, there's a couple other people, but he's probably the one that I really keep my eye on. If there's a question I have about what's going on in Europe, and especially England, he's the one I go to.
When you talk about, this is what happened in Braver Angels that I had, and I love the organization Braver Angels. Look them up. If you vote red or blue or independent and you lean a certain way, they have these, they're called fish bowls. And essentially they invite these panelists to come, and there's questions they're asked, and you can observe, and you at the end usually get an opportunity to ask a question. Hundreds of people tune into these because I think it's not a debate. That's not the intent of it. It's merely to answer questions from your perspective and to hopefully learn from other people. I think that's the whole basis of it. But look it up, Braver Angels. They're all over the country. They're
also trying to make it so that both sides communicate a little better to try to take an exit ramp before we get to a place that's crazy.
What I found was the left, the blue side, was talking about how kind of what you're saying is that he is acting unconstitutional. He is dismissing the judicial. He's given all this power to Elon Musk. So on the red side, if I were to comment on that, one is, as the executive, he has the ability to appoint someone over a department initially created by Obama to do the exact same thing, but it never went anywhere. He took that department, renamed it Doge, and appointed Elon Musk. So Elon has been appointed by the president, just like so many others that were appointed by the president that run departments. It's an appointed position. So, for example,
it's
our old governor,
18-month term, isn't it?
Huntsman was appointed by Obama to be an ambassador to China.
Well, that's
appointed by Trump to be the ambassador to Russia.
That's a different appointment than the one. Elon Musk got a term appointment for a project, whereas an ambassador is an appointment. Don't ambassadors also get confirmed by the Senate?
I don't think so.
But they're different appointments. Elon Musk
Either
has
way, the
18 months.
executive, yes, but that 18 months was a decision made by our commander in chief.
Yes,
Trump could say, Elon, if you're willing, 4 years, you ride this wave with me.
that'd be
Elon's
great.
the richest man in the world. He's got other things to do, like rescuing astronauts and such. He could do anything else. He wants to do this and he doesn't take a paycheck for it. But what I'm saying is, there is no mismanagement here. Donald Trump has the power as the president to appoint anyone to department leadership. That's literally in his power, other than the ones that have to be in the cabinet that must be confirmed by Senate. But even then, he gets to appoint who he wants and hope the Senate gives them the yay or nay. So he has been aggressive with the tariffs, but he came in saying, we just want to match you. Whatever you're doing to us, we were going to do back. And nobody should act surprised. He literally ran on these topics for 2 years almost.
I do want to
And
see what happens with
Doge-
the tariffs.
Doge came in later on, but the idea behind Doge and cleaning up the government was what he was running on. And he was saying, we need to stop this bureaucracy that is taking our money and spending it in bad places. Like, I've seen so many of his speeches where he's promised to do all of these things. He's always talked about tariffs. He's talked about taxes. He's talked about immigration and getting the criminals, immigrant or illegal immigrants out of this country and stopping at the border. So the things he's promised he's doing, yes, through executive order. We'd love to see it get voted on in Congress, but he's still doing what he said. So when these people act like they're surprised and he's doing too much, then when you challenge them on that, then it's the way he's doing it. So now that's a personality flaw. Maybe it's an aggressive flaw, but we're seeing change happen before our eyes. And he is in front of the press daily.
Well,
Whereas we have 4 years where it wasn't like that.
now I wasn't bringing that up to say that believe me, tearing down government, nothing near and dear to my heart. What I'm telling you is that a conservative, a very, very staunch conservative, is saying that he's concerned that he's going to drive the independents away. I personally don't care. I say tear it down, leave ashes in
What
in
is
2
he doing
years.
that will drive them away?
It's
Personality or policy?
okay. We're never going to get the left on. They're never going to get on board with this.
I disagree. We had a lot vote for him this time around.
We're never going to get the progressives on board with this.
The far left.
Yes. So when I say the left, I mean the left. They're never going to get on board because it's not the message, it's a messenger. Right? Just like if say AOC won and did something similar, we would never get the right on board with that.
Well,
it just wouldn't.
You're meaning the messenger by the Republican Party, because I can't think of one Republican that would get the left on board. The left you're talking about.
100% sure. So split the hair however you want to, but yes. Okay. But the independence is who he was concerned with. We're being lost in this. And I want it because this isn't an opinion I share. I don't share the opinion with Carl Benjamin. I'm just repeating what someone else said. Now, of course, he was on Tim Pool's show, and Tim Pool gets a little argumentative about it. So he wasn't able to flush it out completely. So I'm going to seek that out elsewhere because this is something I'm interested in.
Yeah, I am too.
Because this is an outside interested party looking in who shares he's more conservative than you are. I'm going to tell you that right now. He shares your alignment, but he's looking in, seeing something different than someone on the inside. Maybe that's because
He's a
he's
foreigner.
not vested the same. Maybe not. I don't know. I don't know why. But he's
Is he
seeing
an
something
economist?
different.
What's his claim to fame? Like, what's his specialty?
Well, his specialty is he went and got he started out as it's I don't know. I don't want to do a Carl Benjamin show, but he started out doing like video game stuff and kind of ragging comedy. He's the guy who made Keck go real big during the Gamergate. Remember Keck the frog?
Mm-mm.
Okay, he made
But
that.
he's probably more like a Silicon Slopes type.
No,
So he's not.
but now he does psychology. He does kind of a political psychology, but not in the idea of politics and the idea of historical politics and looking at it. He's an interesting guy.
I think the left is folding itself over backwards right now, and I don't see them having anyone to lead them. And anyone that even tries to get to a place like Gavin Newsom, for example, they turned on him.
Yeah, that show he did.
Because he's inviting the other side in to have a conversation. Now, that's where the let's just say the left, but I'm not talking about all Democrats or liberals. I know there's a difference between a far left Democrat and a liberal, and especially old school liberals that actually wanted more liberty and freedom and the government to take care of its downtrodden and to make sure that the water's clean and all of that. I know there's a big difference. So let's just categorize. When we're talking about the left, we mean the far left. But here's Gavin Newsom, who I think has wrecked his state absolutely with terrible policy and ideals, and not alone. I mean, he's got a Congress of his own that he's doing that with. But he's coming out, Bill Maher coming out and trying to bring the other side in to get an idea and maybe to look like they're leading and bringing people to their side. It only benefits them. I see these right-wing people going on their shows, and I applaud them for going.
Does it not kind of feel like Gavin Newsom is trying to reach across the aisle a little bit?
I think that's what he's trying to make it look that way. But I know his own side is now turning on him.
Yeah,
the mere thought of reaching across the aisle.
The far left of his own side is just like the far left of Bill Maher's, audience is. The average
they have
people,
the same audience.
Bill Maher and Newsom are going to. I think they're going to bolster themselves with independence. Now, Bill Maher doesn't matter. He's not running for political office. He's a cheerleader pundit. But Gavin Newsom, I think Gavin Newsom is going to up his numbers with that. And let's just play this game out. So he had on Charlie Kirk on his first show and
Steve Bannon.
And let's say he gets on Vivek and he gathers these people and has them on over the next year.
But if I don't watch the show, so have you.
Let me finish this out. But the clips draw you in. Have you watched every clip that come the shorts of Charlie Kirk on there, proving him wrong?
I've only heard stories of it. I haven't watched it.
Every clip that came across YouTube of Charlie Kirk proving him wrong.
Well, I know Charlie Kirk is a beast, so you're going to
take
somebody
Bannon proving it. But here's the deal. It endeared me a little bit to Newsom.
True. You respect something like that.
What happens in 4 years if the Republicans come in and let's say the Republicans have a person in mind for whatever reason, Vance isn't in there, but let's say the Republicans have someone like McCarthy or Romney or someone that the Republicans would have to swallow a big old apple to get through. And Newsom's on the other side. Right? So the Republicans stay home.
You look at California. That's something you can never get past.
True.
And his
But
own party won't let him get
who's
that
gonna
high.
who's gonna be out in 2 years?
What do you mean?
Newsom's not going to be governor.
That doesn't
It'll
matter.
probably be Kamala.
His own party will not let him get to that status because of what he's doing right now. They don't have anyone to lead them, and it shows.
They may let him get there. 4 years is a heck of a long time.
Yeah. Well, we only need 2 years. That could change the
but
whole
I mean,
dynamic.
Gavin Newsom, we could see him be president. And
I could. No. I'm just saying, look at the results from the far left. They want to burn him.
Right now,
because of what he's doing. Bill Maher's going to the White House to meet with Donald Trump.
Right now,
he's been an ass, but I think it shows. It only helps Bill Maher's ratings.
Sure.
To go there. I don't think it does anything for Trump. But who has reached across the aisle more than Donald Trump?
That's like the thing I've said right now with Donald Trump and the ploy that he can go hard now and then go easy in a year, right? To secure those midterms. Newsom can do that now.
We'll see.
And then go easy. He can bring in all the endearment from the conservative leaning independents. All the endearment. He can bring all that in now.
No, they'd have to be morons.
And then
look at his policies.
Holly.
Independents are smart folks.
Americans are morons.
No,
we went from what percent tax did we throw the British off our dang continent for to where we are now? Americans are morons. We are morons.
But we've gotten awake now, hopefully. And I just hope. I hope the independents are going to look at this, and the economy is going to tell them we're on the right path.
Tell me about this latest argument against Thomas Massey. Tell me how we've gotten awake, where he says this continuing resolution is going to drive us further into debt. And the Republicans came after him for
Trump
blood.
Went after him.
Yeah. So tell me, we're retarded.
Well, you're retarded if you went after him.
Yeah, we are retarded.
Because there's a thing. You've got to think for yourselves, people. Consider both sides. Consider the options. Thomas Massey was standing on principle. That is who he is. It's what he always does. It's just like Mike Lee. But until we get the purse handled to where the House decides to make cuts and put laws in, Trump is working within his means for what he has. I don't think he's done anything unconstitutional. I question the ability of the judicial from the lower branch judicial, not the Supreme Court, which has is an equal branch. All three are equal branches. But these lower branches who are trying to stop him at all these turns, I don't think they're going to have a shot there because I don't think he's breaking any laws.
Ooh, Dennis says, Newsom's political record will be his downfall for his political ambitions. And you may be right, but I don't know. I don't
think people could forget that.
We've seen a lot of crazy comebacks in this world.
He has charisma, which is what leadership is lacking on their side.
He's a lizard person.
Yeah.
He's drowning in charisma and lizard pheromones.
Left is ready to burn him to the ground. And that reminds me.
Right now they are.
The left used to love Donald Trump once. The left used to love Elon Musk once.
Okay, now the left
tolerated Gavin Newsom.
The left never loved Trump or Elon because they were rich. The Democrat Party did. The left did not.
I don't know about that.
The left liked Elon for making the Tesla, but they didn't like him for being rich.
I see. This is again, they're having to fold over themselves because they loved him when it came to going to Mars and the electric car. And
I don't think they cared about Mars, but the Tesla they loved because that was the first.
He believed in the climate change and he was really on board with it all the way. The whole purpose of going to Mars was to create a new society there because they thought we were going to lose our planet.
He also thought that he correctly believes that given humanity on one spot to live, puts humanity into a crosshair where if it gives it two, it gives it a greater chance. But I'm you know what? You may be right, but I don't know. I could see that changing. We've seen political winds change a lot. I mean, I remember when Donald Trump first ran, and I was like, this is ridiculous. This has to be a joke.
The first time when he ran as an independent or when he ran as a
The
Republican?
first time in 2016 when he come down the escalator, I thought, this has to be a joke.
I did too, until he
This
opened
can't
his
be
mouth
real.
about immigration. And then I thought it was a joke. My husband, day one. My dad, day one. I took a long time. I'm Ted Cruz. I thought Ted Cruz was the next really good conservative. But I think what we needed and what America wanted, including independents and some of the Democrat Party, was logic. And the DEI had gone too far. The immigration problem had gone too far.
Well,
And Republicans and Democrats in the past had screwed it up together equally.
well, here's the deal: is yes, it has. The pendulum is about to swing, but as a student of history, if you go back 100 years, the Republicans were the party of the atheists and the urban wealthy people.
But then principles have changed, platforms have changed.
That's what I'm saying.
And that's the thing, because
Things
it is
change,
a
and they
living,
can-
breathing thing. It's called human beings.
They can
And
change
they
quick.
change their
Remember,
minds.
the Democrats up through the 60s, all through the 60s, all against the Civil Rights Act.
They didn't like the Civil Rights
Right.
Act. And they
And then-
also didn't like war.
And then bam, Democrats have always liked war. Just don't.
You're
don't let 'em lie
talking
to
about
you.
the establishment. I'm talking about the people.
Sure. The Democrats have always liked war. They don't like it when a Republican's president. But
It's almost like it's political head trauma.
yeah. But I mean, who started World War II? Who drug us into World War I, World War II, Vietnam, Korea? All Democrats. 100%. But so things shift. Rhetoric shifts. That's all it takes, is a shift in rhetoric. And someone who believes one thing today will flip tomorrow. Remember,
I just think it's different.
let's just
It's
talk about-
cultural
let's-
experience, not just talk.
how are Republicans talking about Teslas 2 years ago?
A lot of Republicans were invested in Tesla.
Republicans, conservatives didn't like Tesla 2 years ago.
I still don't. I wouldn't
'cause
own
it-
one. It
it was
doesn't
a-
fit my lifestyle.
It was a status quo in support of government overreach in the name of climate change.
This is the thing though. Are you talking about the government or are you talking about the people? Because out at the racetrack, I was flabbergasted that I was watching a race with all EVs, and I was like, holy crap. Because to me, an EV doesn't make sense for me if I want to do a road trip or something that I have to charge all the time and all of that. But there's a lot of blue collar folks that loved the EVs
Yeah.
that were coming out and the EV trucks, and all power to them. It's not that I don't think we need to save the planet. I just don't think the technology's there to make it available or, reasonable for the average American. But I didn't love or hate Elon Musk ever. I mean, I respect him. I really respected him. He became the richest man in the world. And someone said, you don't like Twitter? Buy it. And he did.
Well,
And after he did, that's when the left started to turn on him. It's when he went all in for Donald Trump that the DTS took over or the TDS took over. And it's gotten insane. And now you've got people torching dealerships and scratching cars. And
that's what I want to roll into next, because I don't know. I'm not. Look, you don't have to justify to me. What I stated here was the opinion of someone else.
we know you love Gavin Newsom. Just admit it.
Well, no, I'm just saying. You know what, you guys sleep on it, because he'll surprise you. I'm telling you
His
right now.
party is not going to let him get any
Okay.
further. Did you see the
Good luck.
news that came out about the Bernie Sanders AOC event
in Denver? And it turns out that a lot of it was
80%.
paid people.
80% of the people that attended there had attended all the other ones, and they can do that by tracking phones.
Now,
and
that doesn't mean that
how do these people afford to get there, especially when they're all over the country? Those NGOs are tracked back to many groups that host these events.
Yes, and I agree with you. I'm not gonna
that is gonna take.
I'm not gonna sleep on Bernie Sanders or AOC either. AOC is
You're gonna sleep on Gavin though?
I'm not gonna sleep on any of them. No, what I'm telling you is you guys need to. The conservatives, I'm an independent. I can stand outside and I can be okay because I know we're screwed. You elect all the Republicans. They're not going to fix anything that's wrong. The Republicans aren't going to take our taxes away. The Republicans aren't going to quit, abusing me as just a citizen of this country. Yeah, the Democrats might abuse me more, but remember the argument between the average Republican and the average Democrat is should we tax you at 32 or 36%? That's the argument. That's been the argument for 50 years. I believe it should be at
0%, but that's again, all business taxes should be at 0. Corporate tax rate should be at 0. If a company's charging or a country's charging us tariffs, we should charge them tariffs. That should be fair, and tariffs should be able to afford the needs of this nation, and states should be able to afford the needs of their state. I don't think the federal government should be the largest employer in the country. And I think the lower the taxes, the better and the more organized our government gets and into the 21st century and accountable, the less pork. I mean, all these things he's addressing head on right now. And we said this before he was sworn in. We're going to hurt somewhere, but we know. I feel like he has made it so absolutely clear he's not touching your Social Security. He's not touching Medicare. What he's touching is fraud. And this is what I can't understand. People are going to burn Tesla to the ground because he's finding fraud and waste. How does this make sense?
It's the messenger, not the message.
It's whoever is paying these folks, who's been paying these folks. There is someone, and I guarantee it's attached to NGOs somewhere, that it's going to come back that there is a group of thousands of protesters, multiple thousands, who probably answered a Craigslist app and went to a place and picked up their sign or their brick or wherever they were told to go, and they get a paycheck. I guarantee we're going to get that because it was during BLM.
Yeah.
Where were those signs from?
$300. No, the stacks of bricks.
Grassroots. Where did these crates of bricks show up at?
Mm-hmm.
Like this.
Look, I agree with you 100%.
You could not change my mind. And hearing what Doge has found so far is appalling to me. 40% of the phone calls they get every single day to Social Security are scams. Trying to relocate your Social Security money to a different bank account. It could be from a family member. It could be from an outsider, but 40% going into Social Security right now is scamming people. This should terrify every one of us because some of us never thought we'd see Social Security. But to hear...
I still don't.
Yeah, well, and we still might not.
Because a Ponzi scheme can only Ponzi for so long.
Doge is finding $1 billion a day in waste.
I know, it's crazy.
Fraud.
It's crazy
billion.
That there is. He talked about the one he talked about was the Survey Monkey.
Oh, my favorite.
Did laps for $1 billion and went nowhere.
Survey Monkey is something your 12-year-old, your 9-year-old could do. It's a survey. Well, you can do it on Google for free.
You can go up and set up your survey. Survey Monkey, my company used to use it for safety trainings. And then people get on their phone and answer it on Survey Monkey.
They're paying,
but they were paying billions for nothing.
It's just like that Obamacare website that they spent so much money on, and it crashed the second it came out. And yet most web developers were like, you could make this website in a day.
But remember, it was because it was a sorority sister of Michelle. That's why they did it.
These NGOs are going to.
But I want
I
want interaction.
of that.
And if you guys have a friend that's on the left, please send this to them. Tell them to log on and shoot their comments at us right now, because this is where
I don't want them to shoot anything. I just want them to.
This is where I have a lot of questions.
Calm.
So I want to start off with that guy that led the protest that got picked up to be deported. He was here on a student visa.
Columbia College.
Yes. You've got the left saying that this is a breach of his free speech. You've got the right saying that you can't come out with an anti-American message and be here
as a guest.
Yes. So I want the two arguments of that, because I am torn on this. I fully believe in the right to protest, the right to show grievance to your government. I don't know
in another country.
I don't know.
I'd love to see that.
I don't know. Well, that's why we're the best country, because no other country allows you to do this.
Here's the real question.
But the question is do I want? I could easily see a circumstance where this could change and go the other way. Say it's the issue in Ukraine and Biden was president, and a Russian student is on a campus saying we should not be sending arms over to Ukraine.
That's not what he was saying.
But yes. But this is where I am. Everyone should know this. I'm a free speech absolutist, and I'm willing to lay it on the line right now.
He was threatening Jewish students
now
and encouraging people to hurt Jewish students so they were in fear.
Okay, so that makes it a different argument than just protesting.
Right.
And that's where what I think, if that's the case, here's what exactly needs to happen is the administration needs to take him in front of the worst judge they can find around there. They need to take him in front of the furthest left judge and lay their case out and try him for inciting violence. And they need to have it in an open court, and they need it to be in an adversarial court. You've got to win this battle correctly. Because if you just round him up,
he's not a citizen, he's a guest, and guests have certain
that's
expectations.
Fine. You just round him up and pop him off, and this is what you get.
I think people are moved on from that. I think they've moved on now to criminal aliens getting taken and sent to El Salvador. Now they're on that topic.
No, they're not moved on from it yet. I just listened to a show where they talked about it today. Well, but they are also talking about,
do illegal aliens get the same rights under the Constitution as Americans?
That's a tough question.
Because that is my question.
I don't know if that's ever been adjudicated.
Yeah, I don't think they do. And here's why. They're not citizens of the country.
Mm-hmm.
They are guests.
So what?
And if they broke into the country, they're already broke the law.
So what rights do you give them?
Men in prison have constitutional rights, but their rights are also hindered.
Do you give them
the law?
Well, that one guy, the guy who got picked up for the Columbia, he hadn't broken a law. At least they haven't tried him for breaking a law. That's why I say they should try him. They should put him in court and try him, get him adjudicated for if they can prove that in court, then they win. There's no argument.
No, the left jury would convict him unless
I would try to do that. I would bring in witnesses. At least then you have the spectacle.
But then you lose. With the juries, it's like a military.
Sometimes you win more with the spectacle. Maybe a little. You guys look up Curtis Yarvin, listen to some of his talks on the strength from weakness. Interesting talks. We would have never had the Dobbs decision without it.
I think the skeptical right now is asking him to leave and telling people, you don't come to this nation, put American citizens in fear of their life on a college campus, take over buildings on a college campus. And if anything, hey, colleges, this is the skeptical.
Did he take over a building? Because I remember when they did that. The left is utter incompetence. I say
they're hypocrites.
They go in there, they take over a building, then they got to beg for food. When they started the thing up in Seattle, the Chaz, they starved up there. I'm telling you, the left, if it comes to civil war, make sure you bet on right.
This is why I say they're folding over themselves, because they're absolute hypocrites.
This is just my comment. My comment on that one particular guy. I say you need to try him in court. Make it the thing. Okay.
The taxpayers got to pay for that. I disagree.
That's fine. I still say you want to do this right. Other than that, you're just going to be called.
Okay.
Right now, they're just calling Republicans hypocrites over that. That's what you're getting. And that is driving independence away. That is driving independents who believe in the Constitution at any cost away. That is driving libertarians away.
We need to answer the question. And libertarians that know this are guests of this country, endowed the same rights under the Constitution of the United States if they're not a citizen of the United States.
Telling you right now, most libertarians believe yes.
Okay, so Dennis says Newsom's you already said that. Technology for EVs isn't evolved enough to make them viable, and the carbon footprint involved is too big for the outcome. I agree. Fred is watching. Hi, Fred. Dennis says protesting is different than inciting crowds to violence. And I agree with that. And this is what they accused him of.
All that's come out is they've just said you can't.
And I think
couldn't hold a protest.
30 years old or something.
Doesn't matter. I'm not arguing on the sides. I'm arguing First Amendment. They need to adjudicate him.
Nations need to protect their citizens.
Sure.
And colleges need to protect the students that go to their schools.
I think colleges should crumble to the ground and go away.
How many of you had tonight? I'm just curious.
That's my first half.
Okay. Fred says, of all the lessons I've learned in the past 4.5 years, I've learned how valuable our right to free speech is. I have many opinions about many things, but this First Amendment value is new. It's because we lost it to the communists for 4 years and they controlled the message.
Yeah.
It's a good point. But they controlled the message and they actually used other companies to control it. So our speech didn't have to be hindered by government. They got Meta to do it. They got Twitter to do it. I mean, they would make
under government threat.
Right. But they didn't have to get their hands dirty.
Here's my question. But they did get their hands dirty with it. They did round up protesters on right-wing protesters at the time.
At abortion clinics, but not during COVID.
Here's the thing. Here's the question that I want to ask you. So if you're going to afford people with green cards to this country certain rights and not rights, where are you going to draw that line? Are you going to afford them positive rights, but none of the negative rights?
Can a green card holder own a firearm in the United States of America?
I do not believe so, but I'm not sure. You actually,
I mean, this is a real question. I'm not trying to get you.
On the, what is it, 2243? There's a part where you put in your green card number, so I think they can.
Because I'm just wondering if we understood exactly how that process works. If you're here on a student visa, can you buy a gun? If you're here on a green card, can you buy a gun? Because if they can buy a gun, then they get the same rights that American citizens get. But if they can't, for whatever reason, then they can't. For the United States government to say, look, we're done with this. We're done with this incitement of violence against other students. The fact that Columbia University didn't step in sooner and other campuses, other colleges didn't step in, then we're just going to make this, and he can fight it, but fight it from your country. Because if any American went into that country and did the same thing.
I do not want
England has freedom of speech.
No, they do not.
Well, not anymore.
No, they never did. It was never ingrained in law. It was common practice, but it never once was it ingrained in law.
I
in
thought it
England.
was in their constitution.
They don't have a constitution.
Their order, their
Magna Carta, no, that was for nobles.
what is their basis of law over there? What is it called?
A commonwealth. I do not want to build America to say we're comparing ourselves to other nations.
That's
We're
not
the
what I'm
shiny city
doing.
on the hill.
I don't want to build America where my child isn't safe because he's a Jew and he's at a
Sure.
college.
And here's
some
what
kid with a visa is stirring everyone up.
That's
and
where the
threatening
college
them.
should have stepped in and dealt with that.
Absolutely. And
So here's what I do. Columbia loses half its endowment tonight.
So it's got a constitution comprised of various statutes, conventions, judicial decisions, and treaties. Not a single document like
Yeah,
us.
so it's just common laws.
I don't know. It's a good question. It's not one that I care too much about. I do care about the criminal aliens that are getting transferred out of the country. We talked about this.
Yeah. So well, I want to get to that in a second.
That same thing. We're not prosecuting them.
I want to get to that in a second, but I'm on this free speech thing, and I want someone on the left to come on and tell me their thoughts and feelings and arguments so that you can argue with them.
They're not here right now.
I know. And me, I honestly, I don't know where my opinion lies.
Do we know his name? Anybody?
Mahmoud, something. I'm a demigod or something.
Okay, that's not probably it. But
I think it's Mahmoud is his first name though.
Student deported protesting. What's his name?
Anyways, as fun as that is.
Yeah.
So no one's on there arguing that. Let's move on to the next thing, which is the deportations I got into. Well, someone thought I got into an argument with them, and I wasn't. I was asking them questions, but they took it as an argument and come after me for it. But okay, so the rounding up of the criminals and sending them down to El Salvador at cheaper than housing them here cost. I don't know. I want to hear if I thought she would come on, I would call and have her come on. But I'm wondering what's the argument on that? And I guess this would have to be one of those cases where we have to look at it in the aftermath and say, was innocent people rounded up? Because if innocent people were rounded up and said down there, say they sent non-violent illegal aliens down there to serve time in a labor camp, I would have an issue with that. If the government showed that everyone they sent to El Salvador was a violent criminal, and that includes if they were a violent criminal in their country before they got here, I have no problem with that. I have no problem with violent criminals getting their comeuppance, but I do have a problem if they're just rounding up people. So
what about if said violent criminal didn't do any violence in the United States, but they still broke our laws by coming across the border?
I already said
because
that includes if they were just violent in their home country.
No, I'm saying because if you round up those folks and there are people who also came in illegally amongst them and they get brought in, are you saying that anyone who snuck into the country shouldn't have to go to El Salvador? They didn't self-deport.
I want El Salvador reserved for violent criminals. I'll put it that way.
What about drug dealers?
Ooh, boy, that's where it gets tough, doesn't it? I guess
fentanyl and the
if they're trafficking fentanyl, I'd be fine with that. I would consider that an act of violence if you're a drug dealer. Yeah, I would 100% consider
trafficking people.
And if you're a coyote, I don't know, maybe there's a saintly coyote who lets no little girls get harmed on their way here, but As far as I know, all of them are, all of them, I'd consider that an act of violence.
Well, yeah, a lot of people end up
I'm-
dead in the back of a truck because
I'm sure
they
there's,
get left to die.
yeah, I'm sure there's coyotes who people pay them and they bring them over here and it's all on the up and up, I'm sure. And I don't know if I'd consider that violence. But if there's violence
They're
involved in it,
trafficking a human.
well, I mean, like,
I mean, let's get into the weeds here.
the
They're trafficking
people,
a
some
human.
people get paid to get brought over here, and the coyotes are the guide or the driver that gets them here. They don't like, those are the Chinese people that come over. Chinese people coming over don't get raped in the desert.
No, I understand that. But what I'm saying is you're still trafficking humans
Sure.
across our border,
Sure.
knowing it's against the law. And
But would I consider that violence?
I think it could be.
That
just because
that sounds, I don't want to start blurring
you can
lines.
die in the desert.
So if I take my family on a trip to
break in somewhere,
to say we go across the desert where we could die,
no,
is that
you're
considered
literally breaking into the country?
Yeah, but I don't know
You're
if I would
committing a
consider
crime.
that violence. Violence is particular. Don't blur it.
You gotta
If
figure out what the lines are.
No, if you start blurring violence, then we're just lost. Then it's all done. It's over.
So
No, it's over. There's no
is
argument.
violence.
Fentanyl, I would consider violence. Yes.
But human trafficking, which is bringing people that owe you money across the border, isn't.
I explained that earlier. Maybe you didn't hear. If I said maybe there's a Jesus-like coyote where no one he brings over gets hurt.
Rhetorical.
No, I'm saying, like, if he brings them over, no one gets hurt on the path, like probably how most of the Chinese special forces are getting here right now. Promise you, they're not getting hurt en route. China's paying them hard and telling them.
Well, I get that, but I'm saying, how do you discriminate that? How do you know
when
who to charge
violence
and who not to charge?
happens? When they get brought over in the mass groups and they still owe money to the cartel back there that got them over there. When they get molested or harmed on the way over. When they get brought over and get sold into servitude to finish paying off their debt.
My question is, do we charge them and put them in a trial here because we have witnesses to say they were the Jesus coyote or they were the violent coyote? How do we discriminate?
Honestly, yes.
Right now.
Honestly, yes.
So how do we do that?
Put them on trial here.
So what if they haven't committed any crimes and we don't know who they are? Because
then we just send them back to their home country.
People they're going after right now have committed crimes
in this country. This argument is about, do we send them to the work camps in El Salvador?
Right. Versus our prisons.
Or versus sending them back to their country.
Well, a lot of their countries aren't taking. Well, I guess they are taking them now.
Yeah, trust me. They all take them.
But my question is, these people should self-deport.
Sure.
And get in line. If you don't want to get caught up in these raids and get sent off to El Salvador, I do think we should be definitely making sure there are violent people going there.
That's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
But I know that they're right now going after criminals that have already been charged and already got all of that.
100%. Now
the left is going to get swept up in the net.
The left is saying that they're not. This is where I'm saying, I think some kind of trial, some kind of public adjudication on their way needs to happen so that the left can't do any of their wiggly arguments.
I don't know how we can afford it at this point.
I don't know how we can't.
I don't know how we stop the people getting caught up in these raids, because half the time you don't even know who they are unless they've got that criminal record. I do think that no one should ever be sent to prison that doesn't belong there. The real good thing would be a lot of these coyotes, people would never testify against. Like, how do you have a trial? They're terrified.
So Fred says, don't charge them and spend money on illegals. Just ship them out. The question is, where do we ship them to? Do we just ship them to to El Salvador. Like, say you go into the Mexican restaurant and the lady who's cousin of the owner of it brought their cousin over illegally, paid to have them brought over, and then they're working there. Do you want them sent to El Salvador? The lady who hands you your chorizo burrito?
No, I don't even want them sent back to Mexico, if I'm being brutally honest. But they've got to go. Make it right. And our government is just as responsible to fix and reform our immigration system so that there's an option. But these people need to get back to their country and get in line. If they have been contributing to this country for however many years and they've lived a really good life, I think there should be a special line for them after the people who have waited have gotten through. But there shouldn't be a 10-year waiting period. And we need to reform that.
I would argue if you broke across the border illegally and you got shipped back, we will allow you to apply again, but you must pay us $15,000. Does that sound like a good number?
I think there has to be some skin in the game.
Yeah, $15,000 to get back on the list so that you can apply to come back honestly.
Did we just solve that problem in this
Solve
country?
the problem. Dennis says, if the only crime they did was crossing the border illegally, they should still be deported back across the border. Violent criminals get a trip to max security prison. Yeah, and that's what El Salvador is if you haven't watched videos of it, yeah.
I just think
that prison in El Salvador is a beast.
I think the people that are mad, or there are people that haven't been charged as violent, getting caught up in these raids and are getting sent over. And that's where people are getting mad. And that might follow the line where you're going to get independents going, no, we're not doing that. And we don't believe in that.
I say sending them back to their home country, 100% with. You could argue that all day, every day. Hey, they didn't have any paperwork here that says they're supposed to be here. Didn't have a green card, didn't have an ID that says, so we send them to their home country. And
but how do you know where their home country is if they're not communicating and they don't have that with them? Like, I bet a lot of people are going to zip right up.
So they're not communicating. They just, then they, wait in jail or prison until they want to tell us.
So are you prepared to arrest people who don't have papers?
Or we've got a little place that's been used for, heck, I was deployed there when I was in the Army to deal with this. Guantanamo Bay. That's what Guantanamo Bay was used for in the mid 90s. It was Operation, what was it? Operation Sea Light or some, name from the Democrats back then. But all it was any illegal that came over here from Cuba, Haiti, Dominican Republic, and Cuba, Haiti, Dominican Republic, maybe one other. They rounded them up, shipped them back to Gitmo, and started processing them there.
I'm wondering how many of those Chinese immigrants have even broken laws since they got here?
Oh, they're not.
And they're laying so low.
They're special forces. We got divisions of them. We got corps of special forces over here.
Do we just put them on a plane back to China? Because I don't think we'd
find them. We're not going to catch them. They're sitting out in the woods somewhere training. They've got their Type 93s.
Which
Fred,
I think is why the high alert needs to be on the people who snuck into this country. We need to know who they are.
Fred says, quit acting like a girl, Jared. Don't overthink it. Don't overthink
you are getting really spicy.
No, I'm just
hotter than normal. It is warm in here. Do you need to
the windows
take your bra
open?
off?
No, my bro.
Do you need a pampering?
No, I'm just telling you. One, you're not listening.
Doll?
You don't listen to half of what I say because you come around 20 minutes later.
I'm trying to communicate the thought of, well, there's no Jesus Coyotes. The mere act of what they're doing is breaking the law.
Okay, sure. But you heard what I said, right? I only want violent criminals.
I heard.
People that violence can be tied to, shipped to El Salvador.
That's totally fine. But that isn't the argument right now. The argument people are having is there are people with these people getting snatched up and sent to El Salvador. And the problem we're having is, how do we get them back?
How do we get who back?
How do we get these people who just broke across the border and didn't have a violent criminal act?
I want to, what I'm saying is that the administration, anyone they send to El Salvador, needs to justify, even if it's a walk-through court. Like as they're walking through, they hold up the jacket of the crap they did that we can prove, and they walk onto the plane.
Do we know if someone is not doing that? If Homeland Security hasn't done
They haven't
a
shown
roster
us.
on all these
They
people?
haven't shown us if they have. That's also another one of the problems.
Right. So we should have transparency on that.
All you're doing is giving the left fodder.
Well, that's true. But I'm with Fred. I don't want to open up all these new courts and hire all these new lawyers and all these new judges so that we can say, oh yeah, you snuck across the border. Okay, let's charge you. Let's put you in front of a jury. No, let's just take you home.
We can always turn it
And
into
if the border's secure, they can't come back. But the problem we've had in the past is we send them back and they come back.
turn it into a military operation and let the JAGs deal with it.
To their home country.
Don't overthink what to do. If they are not legal, ship them out. If they will not cooperate on where they are from, 20 miles inside Mexico will do. That is where most of them come from. Honestly, all the numbers show that our illegal immigrants are Mexicans make up like maybe 10% of them right now.
Aren't they just the super highway they come through?
They just come through Mexico. Right now, our illegal immigrants, I don't know, listen to Michael Yon, his story about the Darien Gap. It'll scare the bejesus out of you, especially if you're concerned about the possibility of China having special forces in our country. It will scare you to death.
I think what we want, bottom line, is a secure border and just to know who's here. And there are so many people in this country that are not here legally that are incredible people, and they've contributed to the country. They've had children here, their families here, but we have to make sure that we are at least got that border secure so that whatever decision is made, they don't come back in like it's been in the past over and over and over.
I lean in. You can either secure the border or you can kill the welfare state. You can't do both. Well, you can't have an open border and a welfare state. You cannot. It's been proven. Right. It'll suck you dry.
Well, and that's what Doge is exposing is, how many people that don't belong in it that are getting services. Yeah. I mean, cut that off. Then they stop trying to come here as much. The people that are just, coming here for freedom, a lot of them are coming because they want an opportunity at life and they want to get jobs and all of that. But a lot come just because they want that green card to do work and go back. Our green card system is a little bit messed up. That's why we need full reform on this.
It's tore up from the floor up. We need to have workers' cards like we had in the 60s. Dennis says innocent illegals getting picked up with violent gang members being sent to El Salvador as Democratic talking points. I don't feel there's innocent, non-violent people being sent there. You're probably right.
And that's what is coming out on most of the people, even Republicans I'm seeing are that's what their worry is these people are getting caught up and they don't want, it's Nazi Germany all over again. And Republicans are the Germans acting like, oh, nothing bad is happening. No, it isn't. I still own a firearm. No, it isn't.
What I want to know is I think the administration needs to prove it. As long as you give the Democrats these talking points, you're going to lose half the libertarians that voted for Trump. You're going to lose constitutional independence. And that's honestly, both parties, all they fight for are the independence. That's all any party fights for.
Because that's the largest party in this country.
And that's the one that makes a difference in every election.
I think that immigration is a hot topic, and
it is.
We could probably move on. Yep. Thanks, Fred.
Fred says our country does not have the stomach for mass deportation. I think you're right. We do need to figure out a plan, though. I still say kill the welfare state, or just, or do not support any state that has a welfare state that supports illegals and runs themselves into debt. The federal government and other states who are more responsible with their citizens' money doesn't carry any responsibility for that.
It's so true. I don't have the stomach for rounding people up. Just the mere thought of it just gives me a really ick feeling. And that I think is true. I don't see anything wrong with fixing that so that they're not getting welfare, they're not getting taxpayer dollars in any way, shape, or form, and they're not able to vote in races, which has been happening in other states.
Well,
and
and
states that do give these people the welfare or free education bothers me
yes,
because
that
it
is
stumps.
that is a part of the welfare
Yes,
state.
it stumps the education of our citizens,
Yep.
and it makes it kind of slow down.
100%.
So, but states have to be responsible if they decide they're going to let these people come in and take and use these welfare and everything else. Other states shouldn't have to bail them out.
Well, here's a big thing the Republicans need to do that now. So Republicans and people who have Republican ears, Donald Trump, you tried to do this your first time. Declaration of citizenship needs to be on the census, and only citizens count towards your overall representation in Congress. That's what they're doing. That's why California, if they did that, California would probably lose five congressmen.
Oh, at least in the north.
So
I mean,
they might keep the ones in the north, but they'll lose the mid and the south. So
was there a precedent? Because he was sued over that when he tried to do it the first time.
he was sued, and also the Republicans didn't support him on that, including John McCain.
Well, no, because they wouldn't, because they'll lose seats too.
Sure, but they
because
they
it
need
provides
to
more seats.
So that is, but almost all those seats are Democrat seats. But
I'm saying it adds more seats to the state.
But that's what they need to do, is they need to go after it so that only citizens get representation in Congress. Fred says, I have the stomach for it. Put me in charge of it. I work with illegals. They're good people, but they are playing us for their benefit. Of course. And who wouldn't? Who wouldn't play us for their benefit? Their people already show the ability and the desire to do that. But okay, let's move on. So
I like it. Dennis is going to help you out, Fred.
Yeah. So I got into, I had a question, and this come off of X. And you guys don't know who Maj Touré is, right?
I don't know.
Okay. He runs Black Guns Matter. He is a person who goes into urban communities and does gun training, teaching people how to own guns safely and how to buy them, and also goes into these different places and fights for gun rights for inner city people, for urban areas. Think Philadelphia, Chicago, things like that, teaching them responsible gun ownership, trying to arm the good guys. Maj Touré is, I'm going to say this outright, he's an awesome human being, outstanding man.
How does he get around the gun laws in those cities?
No, he doesn't get around them. He works with them. He tries
I know Chicago
supporting
has deep, in New York City has
but
really
there's
restrictive gun laws there.
You can go to gun ranges. There are clubs where you can own guns and things like that. There's ways to do it. But he got on there and he said the burning of Teslas is not terrorism. And he's making an argument. Now, he is a Trump supporter, but he's making an argument that, lighting the Tesla dealerships and burning Teslas is not, shouldn't be listed as domestic terrorism. I personally think it should be, just on my personal feelings, where if they're going to target one item for violent action, if they're just, being violent, I would probably still call it domestic terrorism. But when they're specifically targeting Teslas, I would call that domestic terrorism. They're committing violence to get a particular political outcome.
The left called parents domestic terrorists just for going to their school board meetings.
They sure did. But the left, we don't want to be the left ever. ever. Everyone repeat after me right now. I don't want to act like a butthole leftist. Enough said. But
So he disagrees with you.
that was the question. Well, he mentioned that, and I made a comment. Now, of course, I'm pond scum on the bottom of something's shoe. He didn't respond to it, but a couple other people did. And that's my question for anyone in the audience, especially if we've got someone who disagrees with me on this. Should it be considered domestic terrorism, the targeting of Teslas and Tesla dealership and Tesla owners?
They targeted the government back in the 60s. Who's the guy that Obama first got involved with? And he's a professor, but was a known domestic terrorist.
The Weather Underground.
Right. And they were going after government buildings. The problem is, you're right. They are targeting one thing, and people haven't died yet. But you throw a Molotov cocktail into a Tesla dealership and a family can't get out that's just there to buy a car. That's dangerous. But now I'm wondering, this is the BLM riots. They were targeting everything.
Yeah.
In one issue.
That was interesting. And it wasn't.
People died.
The BLM riots is, well, the inner city riots will always have, I guess, an asterisk next to them because there's not one political goal. A lot of them are used as cover for looting and things like that. But Fred says burning of Teslas may not be terrorism, but it is for sure vandalism. In Utah, vandalism is an item like a Tesla, and its value is second-degree felony, 1 to 15 years in prison. And yeah, and maybe that's enough, but I
it's
think
the masses that are doing it.
I think where it's targeted for political ends, I think that's where, for me, it crosses over into terrorism. The burning of, if you're just lighting cars on fire, I wouldn't call that terrorism unless, you were one of them tree huggers that sit in the road in Europe. But if you're targeting Teslas,
would you call that terrorism?
To
the
force
people that sit in the road in Europe?
I don't know.
Such a fine line.
I don't. Those ones I wouldn't, because they're not committing any violence. They're just sitting in the way. Some of them get violence committed against them, which is,
well, mobs tend to stir violence, but like what you're saying,
drivers have.
This is a target, and this isn't just keying cars. This is burning down these dealerships.
Well, the Molotov cocktail,
of a political view.
Yeah, I think the minute you bring a Molotov cocktail into the party, you just, it's the same as having a hand grenade.
I think it's the political view that makes it terrorism.
It is. Terrorism is violence committed for a political end. So yes, that's why for me it's terrorism. But I want someone to argue against me.
The calculated use of violence or the threat of violence to attain political goals through fear, intimidation, or coercion.
Yeah.
And what's weird is a lot of people who own Teslas are liberals on the left.
Well, and then they had that.
They're again bending over themselves to make a point.
They had that Tesla owner tracker.
Oh, they doxed Tesla owners.
Yes, and that right there, they should find the person who built that site. What is that site called?
Panda something?
No. Is it DogeQuest? Yeah. DogeQuest, they should find the owner.
That's an act of terrorism, I think.
Well, they should find the owner of that site, and they should
Guillotine?
Yeah.
You haven't brought it up in a while.
I know. Catapult. Trebuchet.
But you know what's interesting? I've heard the word guillotine on a few different interviews with the left using it.
It's kind of like I started a trend.
Yeah. I think that when somebody, it's just like terrorist groups who rally people online to go after a specific thing to make a point. It is about fear. And at the end of the day, that's exactly what this is. And we're watching the left not condemn it.
Well,
in fact, they're joking about it. And if this was done on the other side, can you imagine?
I'm going to tell you right now. Now, granted, this is not so someone says it's funny liberals eating their own. Am I evil for loving that? Okay, I know.
Watching it in real time.
5 or 6 Tesla owners, all of them are conservative. Granted, it's anecdotal and it's in Utah. But all of the Tesla owners I know are conservative.
Yeah,
So
the ones I know
so
are
I don't know of any left eating its own. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to bankrupt Elon Musk.
But the Tesla owners are probably hold a firearm. But I'm thinking of the everyday, I don't give a crap about politics. I just love this car people who are driving to work and they're in their car and somebody is damaging the car and maybe they don't know they're in it and they decide to throw a Molotov in there or something and not know there's a baby in the car seat and there's a mom in the front seat. And when people start to die, is that when they're going to consider it terrorism? Because that is terrifying to me. And it is about fear. And they have a target and it's politically motivated.
Well, I think the right needs to right now foster some kind of judicial trying people. Because remember, that's what the left did on January 6th is they took him on a show trial. And that's why January 6th still gets the show. So we need to have a trial. Dennis says Musk only owns 14% of Tesla now. He sold most of it. Yeah. And leftists are retarded.
That's the problem. They're
retarded.
Not dealing with normal people. And we don't even know yet how many of these people are being paid and by whom to do this. Because a lot of these protests we thought were grassroots protests is coming to light. It is not. It is organized and it is going through all these different states and it's NGOs that are funding it.
But here's my question. Should it be scheduled as terrorism?
I think so. Yes.
That's just my question. And I tend to agree with that, but I am open for someone to argue me out of it.
There's a fear factor that's going towards both sides.
They
own a product and it's made to be afraid. And it doesn't hurt. I mean, if you think about it, maybe people will sell their Tesla. Someone else will buy it, especially at a discount. People will buy it.
That's what it says on that website.
And then
sell your Tesla and then prove it to us that you sold it.
Yes, that is terror.
That's insane.
That is terrorism. And it's like you become a Muslim or we'll kill you. You're an infidel. Yeah. So there's also the fact that you're going to key a Tesla, insurance rates are going to go up like crazy.
Yeah, well, I think
so many things. And at the end of the day, Elon is going to make his money either way.
Yeah, I think the keying of a Tesla, that's vandalism. I think when the ones who shot at him or firebombed him, those obviously terrorism.
These morons don't understand Tesla to understand that just keying it, they've got 4 different pictures of your face.
Yeah, I know, it's great.
You're going to key the most technically advanced vehicle in the country and walk away.
I've gone down a lot of rabbit holes watching people approached about that. It's been, I don't know. Anyways.
Do they just not know? I've seen some might because they wear a mask.
Maybe. But then again, a lot of them are still wearing masks because, COVID and it's a thing and whatever. Okay.
We're going to talk about the Doge interview?
Yes. That was the last of my questions on that. So the Doge interview. Let me
So Brett Baer had Doge on And I don't know if you watched it. I shared it on the political head trauma page. It's not that long. It's all the commercials are cut out. It's put on by Fox. It's
Okay, tell us if this plays the sound, guys. It'll obviously play the sound for us, but I'm gonna make sure that this is.
Did you just hear that, Fred? That
primed
little
up.
snippet that he played.
Maybe I'll have to. You know what? I might be able to. I'll try playing it through this.
Well, it's probably too long for us to play on the show. But some very important points. How long is it?
Okay. We'll bring it up.
And it might be on YouTube, actually. I should look.
It is. I watched on YouTube also earlier. Okay, so we're going to try to play this. Wish us luck. Tell us real quick if you can, if it has sound.
Can you hear it, Fred?
So he just asked him about the savings goal. So while we see if Fred, we've
And
had problems.
Dennis, if you heard what we just played, can you just do a thumbs up in the comments?
Might take a second. Actually, just turn the volume up on your phone.
They say no sound.
Yeah.
He's got it paused, but.
Well, they would have heard it earlier. Yeah.
So we know what the goals are. Their goal, they've been tasked to find $1 trillion. We have a $2 trillion deficit every year. Doge believes, and they've set a goal to find 1 trillion.
Mm-hmm.
What they didn't anticipate is it would be so easy. Because of the systems our government uses are so old that if you want to retire from the federal government, it takes you 4 months or so to do that, because they have a literal mine of paperwork that they have to sift through, and it's all paper. And they have hundreds. Oh my gosh, I couldn't believe there's 580 plus departments of government, all with their own tech, all with their own computers, and they don't communicate with each other, making it so insufficient that all kinds of $1 billion a day is what Doge is finding right now. And let's just remember, I don't think they've gotten to the Pentagon yet. The Pentagon can easily lose $23 billion, have no account for it. And it was a Democrat they mentioned in the ad that I think it was Murkowski. Somebody asked for submarines, and they gave him $12 billion for extra submarines. And when they pulled them in front of Congress and said, where are the submarines? We didn't make them. Well, where's our money? We don't know.
Yeah. And there's also, I remember a story, it came out that, that the Army said, we don't need any more tanks. And they got tanks anyway. So that's just all there was.
So they also talk about every federal employee. You know, we're hearing a lot about how they're just going in and slicing and dicing. And he says, it's not like that. We give these people, they've reached out to federal employees, and I believe it's 15% of retirement age that could have the option to retire. And they reached out and gave them that 8-month plan to find another job or to decide to quit. But it was all on the up and up. There were so many questions answered about the tech in our government that I had no idea. This group is made up of really impressive resumes on these folks, CEOs, tech people, brains in tech, and their whole goal is to make government efficient and to make government communicate amongst itself. The IRS has I think 1,500 employees whose job it is just to distribute phones to employees. That could be a part-time job. What are they doing?
Or
They
you know
could
what?
do their entire job in 2 months
What
and
if-
then not work the rest of the year.
What if we just gave all IRS agents an extra, I don't know, $100 a month to, or $70 a month to supplement whatever phone plan they go with?
So they might want them to be on an IRS phone. I don't know what the deal is there, but that's just one thing. The other thing that was phenomenal to me is there are double the amount of credit cards out there, our taxpayer dollars on credit cards, than there are employees in the country.
Yes.
For the federal government. And Elon is saying we need to get those credit cards back.
Yes.
Because they're just out there. Then we find out there's departments where people have spent our credit card money on their own things. One guy leased a BMW. Another guy paid his wife's phone bill and one of their cable bills on this credit card, these government credit cards. That is fraud. And those people should be prosecuted.
Yes.
Because if you worked for a company that you do, and if they give you a credit card, and if there's anything but what you've been permitted to purchase, usually it's gas or something like that, you are charged with theft.
Yes.
And the FBI, I believe, is investigating every one of these. This is all going to take time, but right now what Doge focuses is to get this timeline done in the first 135 days. And if they can find $1 trillion of waste, fraud, or abuse in that 135 days, there's got to be way more. There's got to, right? What if they had 4 years?
I would argue, I would argue right now, Doge just paid for itself.
Wow. Well, and the fact that a lot of these people don't even take a salary.
I would easily argue it's paid for itself. Just tearing through everything. I am one that I think the government is, well, our bureaucracy, we're going to drown. When the U.S. collapses, the future historians who read about it is going to say we collapsed because of our bureaucracy. 100%, without argument.
Dennis says they said they could digitize the paperwork in the mine in 1 month. And that's what they said. The fact that the mine exists blows my mind.
That we keep the paperwork in a mine for all retirees.
Mine. And then yes, do we digitize it? I do love the idea of having paper copies of things just in case there was ever a problem where computers were lost or anything like that. But do I think it needs to take precedence over someone's ability to retire or get fired or get a paycheck for their Social Security or for them to get what's owed to them? I mean, this blows my mind, seriously. Fred says, we live on the wrong side of the Mississippi River. Just think of how wealthy we would be on the East Coast, pulling in the trickle money coming from federal taxes.
Yeah, I would argue anywhere. I mean, the what is it? Loudoun County is like the richest county in the U.S. It's
in DC.
Yeah. Well, in the U.S.
I mean, that's where it is, though. DC,
yeah,
right?
The Loudoun County's right outside of DC. It's in Loudoun County's in Virginia. It's where they first started calling parents.
Is it Stacey Abrams that got a $2 billion in her NGO?
Yeah, she's in Georgia, but yes.
Why?
Yeah, why?
Why? Why does she get my money?
NGOs need to be done away with. 100%.
They literally mean not government organizations. Why do they have their hand out to the government?
What it means is non-government organization is a weird way of saying this isn't an official spending of your money. It's spending of your money, just not official.
And then when they talked about research going to colleges, did you see that? That the researcher gets 50% or 60%, and
Yeah.
the college gets 40% of your tax dollars
Yep.
for the research that we need to cure cancers and other illnesses that we are stricken with in this country, or drugs, right? They have just said, we think researchers should get 80%. Colleges can have 20% for overhead or whatever to provide the space. That makes more sense. He's not even trying to take the money out of the research. If anything, he's putting more money into it.
Well,
more money into your Social Security because he's trying to eliminate the fraud. They got rid of, do you know how many millions of people are on Social Security that are over 115 years old in this country? And you're going to burn Teslas? Why aren't you mad at your government?
It's the messenger, not the message. If it was the Democrat Party doing this, the tables would probably be flipped.
Oh, if Obama put this together like he said he was going to, and I saw this, there is no way I would be angry. Because now I have to preface
You're
that
a logical
by saying,
human being, though.
I don't work for the federal government. Clinton did it, laid off 300,000 employees, and people got upset about that. But I know people got upset about it because it was a lot of military bases and things like that got the Republicans upset. Like, whoa, what are you doing? But I think it's always good to trim the fat. And if you can find fat, trim it, because they work for us. It's our money. And a lot of it's being fun to destroy us. It's insane. And we knew this going in when he was elected. There are going to be things they cut that you like. We have to be consistent that this is what we voted for. This is what we voted for when we went to vote for Trump this year.
Yeah.
Because he's not doing anything he did not promise in his campaign.
This is what I voted for.
Right.
Okay, I voted for two things. I voted for this. I did like this message. What drew me in was the First Amendment, was the things that Kamala Harris was saying. She was talking about how we needed to clamp down on the First Amendment. And that is why I voted. That's the first time I voted in a long time.
Oh, I mean, it was epic.
That I voted?
It was epic that you voted. It really was, because you usually stay on the sidelines and watch it burn.
Because I don't, you know what? Unless we tear down all this bureaucracy, we're not going to be fixed. Unless we make it so that people can build houses again without having to jump through hoops, which is a big message. Bill Maher's been jumping on, but that's why they only build big houses, because they got to jump through so many hoops.
Yeah,
they've got to be able to afford it. We have got to put.
What's that on Temu?
That is
okay.
That's a hitch for a trailer.
Where's the ball?
The ball goes inside here. It's a different way of opening. You slide this back and it opens
Dennis
up.
Says, if Democrats were doing Doge as a Republican independent, I'd be fine with it. Democrats are just hateful. Fred says, most messages about Social Security is the left trying to scare baby boomers into voting left. Not much truth in Social Security arguments. Here's my thing, and you're absolutely right. When I hear, because I try to watch CNN like sometimes because I want to know what they're saying and all of that, but it's a constant talking point. And I think if people aren't awake to the fact that they believe if they say it enough times, it becomes a truth. If they repeat the lie enough, it becomes the truth. But that's it right there. How many of those folks are going to listen to that interview?
How about that Scott Jennings guy?
One more thing about the interview. Elon says in there, hold me to this in a couple of months, because this is what I believe and this is what I think is going to happen. Hold me to it, because this is our goal. This is everyone's goal. And I believe him. Now, who's Scott Jennings? The
guy on CNN, the Republican on that CNN roundtable talk show.
Oh, yeah. He's been getting some.
Oh, he's been hammering
He actually might be
hammering
the
those
reason
morons.
that they keep in business, because look how many
Yeah.
CNN was getting a lot of that money, that NGO money.
Yeah.
And then if RFK decides
Did-
that they're not going to let you advertise drugs on television anymore, I bet we see so many news agencies lose, because do you know how much percentage those companies get based on drug advertising?
Did you watch the MP?
75% of the income on corporate news is drug advertising.
Tell me again why we were forced into COVID. Anyways, did you see
Tell me why CNN has let go of their biggest hosts.
Did you
They
see?
can't afford them.
Yeah. Well, and also they're too divisive. The CNN has lost all their viewers. Did you watch the NPR ladies?
Oh, did I ever? No, I didn't watch it. I listened. And when I started doing this, I was like, oh my gosh, she would be great on NPR. Her voice is so calming.
When they're like, did you say that Trump's a fascist racist? I didn't say it. Well, it says right here,
Here, you said it.
2024, you said it. She's like, well, I don't believe that now. And then eventually she quit lying and just started saying, I don't believe that now. I was confused. I'm like, get rid of NPR. Let NPR stand on its own.
Everything should stand. This is the free market. This is America. It's capitalist.
Yes.
We should let everything stand on their own.
We should have one government sponsored radio station. It should be like Radio Free America, ran by the military.
C-SPAN radio.
Yeah,
just like
C-SPAN.
C-SPAN. All they do is just show you what's going on in Congress any given time. They're not sharing an agenda. That is what C-SPAN was meant to be. That was, I believe, NPR was supposed to be open debate and conversation. But
the problem
there's
is
so much regulation right now. It's hard to have a free market.
When we lost the colleges, when the colleges went ideological and quit being scientific
and funded by the government.
Well, funding them by the government is where you lose them.
Yep.
But they went ideological because they went to where they fought to increase their strength instead of fighting for science. That's when we lost everything. You lose everything downstream. Everyone on the radio right now, or everyone on the news, especially the big news stations, they're all look into all of them come from wealthy backgrounds because they have to grind and have to have a family that'll support them while they're poor. And then they get into the big show. And
that was Tucker Carlson, actually. His family was very wealthy. And he says that. He's like, to get into the news, you have to know someone.
All of them. You got Don Lemon, which ask Don Lemon, I hope you one day hear this. Why haven't you called your new show you call lemonparty.org for those in the know? Anyways.
Hey.
I'll bet some of your friends know what I'm talking about there.
I don't even. Don Lemon is a joke.
You don't know what lemonparty.org is, though,
no.
Do you? Good.
I was raised right.
I guarantee you some of your friends do. Ask them later when you jump on your.
I want to talk about
your fighting game, your shooting game.
Oh, no.
Okay. Ask him what
Dennis says, I hope Musk is right. I'd love to get a bigger Social Security check.
Oh, for
I'd
sure.
like to see one someday, but I'm just being.
Hey, Ponzi schemes got a Ponzi.
So I want to talk about if you're looking for a car.
Oh, yes, 100%.
You guys.
Everyone in Utah, everyone in Salt Lake, Northern Utah. If you're in Southern Utah, you may want to go for a drive.
Right now at Ken Garf Nissan downtown in Salt Lake City, they have just texted me and let me know that if our people are looking for a brand new Nissan, they are willing to give you their employee pricing. You just have to mention political head trauma and talk to Michael is the sales manager, or Sam, who's the main manager, and you're going to go in there and tell them about political head trauma. You'll get employee pricing, and right now interest rates are doing. Nissan's rates are beating credit unions and banks right now.
Nice.
So your special interest rates will depend on what vehicle you want, but they can sell used anything, but they've got brand new Nissans in there. And I am a fan of Nissan. I
Mm.
have the Nissan Titan. I absolutely love Nissan. I've had the Altima, and I mean, they're great vehicles,
Yep.
but I go to that dealership for service. I go to that dealership for questions for every car that I've gotten. And we both have family that are involved at that
Yes.
dealership. And so
Yeah.
we know the history there, and Ken Garff is a great organization.
Yeah. So go in there, mention political head trauma, get your the employee discount, and then you'll help us out, help yourself out, and move some Nissans and let Ken Garff kind of eat that loss.
Well, Ken
They're
Garff
voluntarily
are giving us this
they're
opportunity.
voluntarily signing up to eat that loss for us, for you, for everyone. And I think it's a good thing that they're doing, because we need to start having motions to bring our economy back around. So Fred says Don Lemon is in my top 5 least favorite people. 100%.
He's so smarmy.
Does anybody?
What about
Fred?
Stephen
do you know
A.
what?
Smith right now?
Oh,
He is a wrecking ball.
He's going to be a big threat if he opts to go into politics. We'll be in trouble.
And he's logical.
Mm.
He's Democrat. I mean, I could see him having a thought going forward, like maybe I could lead this party. But if the rabid left doesn't take him down, like I believe they're doing to Gavin Newsom.
I don't think they're going to take him down.
Bright. But you saw him on The View.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to go after him.
Why Trump's win was a big deal.
He's got a little bit of other armor, if you will. One, he's a sportscaster. Two, he's a black guy.
So's Don Lemon.
Fred,
nobody likes Don Lemon.
Oh, the left loves Fred. Do you know what lemonparty.org? Why doesn't? Gosh,
Sherry would look great in a Titan. And
she would.
The Titans. I love mine. I love it, and they're not making Titans new. Right? Anymore?
No, they're not making the Titans out. Well,
but they've got smaller versions of the Titan.
They've still got the Frontier,
and that is a cute truck.
But I think Nissan's going to recognize that. Well, honestly, I think Titan probably discontinued. Nissan probably discontinued the Titan. I think they're going to come back with another pickup truck. They have to. They had a rough go on the latest Titan, like the one with the little baby Cummins. It never quite worked out just right.
Diesel, but that was a few years ago.
It's just too bad that one didn't work out. I have a gas,
and they have warranties on them. I have very little. I don't think I've had to service this Titan, other than oil changes and doing tire rotation and stuff like that. I have not had anything wrong with it, but that's what I love about a new vehicle. That I think it's first world privilege, mind you, because I didn't get my first new car until I was 35 years old. And it was the ultimate, my first brand new car. I've used cars my entire life, always. So I know what it's like to have to go get your car fixed. And it's not going to be $100. It's going to be $500. Just the calm of knowing I've got a brand new car with a warranty, that if something goes wrong, it's on them. That is so settling.
It is. And you're the first one to drive it and everything else.
Do you know what else I noticed is a lot of the used car on their lot are so well taken care of by owners who have traded in. They do great on trades. And Fred, if you are looking, you go in there and ask for Michael and tell him, Holly sent me. She said, I have to talk to you. And because you will be taken care of. Any one of our listeners, go in, and I'm telling you, they've got great used car selection, but it's the new cars right now through Nissan that get those rates. And that's right now what's competitive in the market. And some of you have been waiting and waiting because the interest rates have been so hard. Getting interest or getting your rates through Nissan, you can actually get lower than your bank or your credit union, which is what we need. This is how the economy comes back. One little industry at a time. And this industry affects my family tremendously, and members of your family as well. But every single person that has, I'm just hopeful that people still have hope going forward, after watching this Doge interview, I have more hope. I'm pissed. I can't believe that our databases haven't been updated since the 50s. Computers, and with the work of, I mean, it literally has rocket scientists working to make our government more efficient, and CEOs who would be fired and probably put in jail if they did in their companies what our government is doing to ours. They'd be put in jail. And they even say that. None of this would fly in the free market. None of it.
Nor should it.
Yeah, nor should it. Your dollar should be the most precious dollars on the planet to the US government, because they're taking them from you with your threat of freedom, your life, everything. If you don't pay, IRS comes in or FBI comes in the middle of the night. I mean, you just, it's so, we went to war over tea, you guys.
Over 3% taxes. Well, it's a little more than
there was a lot of other little digs, but a bloated king who was smacking us down every time we wanted, hey, lay off. And it took the silent majority. It wasn't even a majority.
No, it was very much
a silent minority to finally go, we've had enough.
A minority of a minority.
Yeah. And they did it with illegal guns. And they did it. And what came out of it is a very, very precious.
What came out of it was 2 years later, they went after people for taxes.
Because war is expensive.
Governments are expensive. Governments are the downfall of humanity. If humanity gets wiped out, it will be because I would bank on the government. I don't think a meteor could do as much damage as governments do. That's the show right there. All right.
Well, I am trying to schedule for next week. Zach Wilson. He's an up and comer in the Republican Party, and he's an exceptional.
He's Young Republicans, right?
Yes, Young Republicans, and it's this is what we need. We need the youth in this country, the Gen Zs, to be engaged, and we need to keep them engaged because this election was given because of the involvement in Gen Z.
Here's a question, and maybe this is just leave you with this, but what do you think the Republican Party is going to look like? Oh, thanks, Fred. What do you think the Republican Party is going to look like in 20 years when these Zers or whatever, all these new people who moved over, these 20-year-olds, when they mature in, because they have vastly different values.
Absolutely.
So I think we're going to see in my twilight years, in your twilight years, because I'm not going to live that much longer, but in your twilight years, what is the Republican Party? I know you are. What is it going to look like?
Hopefully our party looks very diverse, with a lot of free thinkers, with an agreement on values, on family, and on hard work, integrity, and the American dream, because it's lost. It's gone. Regulation right now restricts the American dream right now in this country. Regulation stops.
Regulation
everyday people with ideas who could
it's
better
what's
the
killing
world.
Us.
Yeah, it stops the American dream. Then we add in housing expense and all this, which a lot of it, regulations all tied up in a big knot on that.
All of it.
And really quick, Fred, really quick. My husband is Michael, by the way. So when you see him, you say, Holly sent you.
Fred, you can't compliment Holly's beard without being confused.
Oh, no, I can read. See, I went to all my years at Granger, not just some of them.
Not just half of one of them.
But here we are, the American dream for the young people. People will hopefully, the Gen Z that got involved and engaged in the political conversation this time around, and their voice was heard. I mean, Charlie Kirk should be given an award of awards because he walked into the Lion's Den in all these colleges and he educated kids about what reality looks like to them and how lucky they are and privileged to be on a college campus with all that money, and what are they gaining from it? And what are these protests gaining? What is the future like? And why is it not cool to have principals or a father in the home or working within your community in service? These types of things, I hope, are coming back, and Gen Z is going to lead the way. I really believe it.
Another thing is, I think we're starting to capture a lot of the college students again. So maybe
They showed up.
the colleges will have to change and quit being a propagandist ideological capture machine, and they'll have to start diversifying the staff and faculty.
If the government cuts off the Department of Education like we voted for Trump to do, there goes the college's guaranteed funding.
Now, Dennis says the American dream is gone because of the entitlement the younger generation thinks they are due. Any historian right now will tell you that the American dream, one, it's always been a dream, but the boomers, the largest generation, was the one that done the most damage in living memory. And it's always the large generations that make the biggest change. And it's usually for the negative because they're the largest block that can move in motion. When the boomers were in their 20s, they voted for their benefit then. And then as they became homeowners, they started dictating voting. It's just not national, it's also local. They're the ones that brought in homeowners associations and NIMBYism and overregulation of housing happened because of boomer homeowners wanting to restrict people building lesser houses in their neighborhood, which would drive their values down. And now that they're older, they're
Even
the ones.
though they raised their families in the beginning
Sure,
in smaller homes.
But largest, and it happens throughout history, and it's happened not just here throughout history. It's happened anywhere we have recorded recorded numbers. We're talking ancient Greece, ancient Rome. It's always the largest faction of an age group that, when they move together, does the most damage to a nation every time.
And the boomers went really to work to achieve that dream. And there's also the women going in the workplace that kind of made it so they were able to get more income. But the boomers raised the Gen Xers with both parents working, latchkey kids, and they provided more to us than they ever had. So we were just raised thinking that's the way things are.
The boomers were provided the most by their parents, measurably by the greatest generation. The greatest generation were by far the parents who
I'm talking about
dedicated the most to their kids. Yes, they measure
items.
Yes, the greatest generation was the ones who provided that to the boomers the most.
My parents, and my experience is different. My parents gave us more than their parents gave them, and I'm only talking about the childhood experience and cars, and they both had businesses and vacations, things they never got. But again, we grew up watching people work hard and thought, well, we're going to have to work hard. Many of our generation got jobs very, very young, and were very independent early on. In the millennials, we kind of made it easier on our kids to where they weren't nudged into that for some reason.
Well, there's also,
millennials kind of were more, hey, I don't care about the things. I want the memories. I want the quality, not the quantity.
There's not just that, but there's also, as we moved into as the world got more expensive and more things just to hold a minor standard of living and the ability to maintain an apartment. So why is it when you pull into McDonald's, the woman behind the register's in her 60s? Because a woman in her 60s, Social Security ain't paying for that apartment.
Right.
So she has to go get a job on top of that. So everyone says our younger workers do
Or
expect
her taxes on her property she probably paid off.
she probably lost, but our younger workers do expect handouts. The ideas of fighting for and working for success is not there. There's yes and no. The younger ones have been spoiled, but everyone who's done measuring of this will tell you the boomers made the most change that negatively affect the future generations. Younger people are arguing, but there is no, tell me the 20-year-old coming out of high school who has dream of making it big.
They changed their dreams.
But there's not.
They don't.
It's unattainable. Are you gonna come into Tooele and open up a department store?
Now, this isn't for everyone because, everyone is individual, but you're right. And didn't birth rates also went down?
And birth rates plummeted
Which
under
is
the
going
boomers.
to destroy the boomers. Well,
Actually,
it'll
no.
destroy our generation.
The
when
boomers
our
are going to
Social
be
Security
fine
comes
because the
out.
boomers are stripping it from us. And then
Because there's nobody to
here's the
work to
best.
give our Social Security when this Ponzi scheme
Here's
fails.
the best. All the people who study this says Gen X are done. They're the ones that are going to get screwed because they're getting screwed coming in from the boomers. And then when they get there, Gen Alpha and Gen whatever millennials, they're all bigger generations than us. They're going to vote and strip us. They all predict Gen Xers are going to be the ones left out in the cold.
What else is new?
What else is new? So all us Gen Xers, yeah, you know
We'll
what?
be fine because we are resourceful.
We'll be fine.
We've been left out in the
We'll
cold.
be fine because they ain't cured cancer yet.
Well, hopefully with AI, with responsible efficiency in government, with
They'll cure
these
cancer.
people, I'm prayerful that the people, Democrat, Independents, Republicans alike, will see the benefit when we have this government out in the light. You can go to doge.gov and watch in real time as they're updating everything they're doing. They're trying to make transparency number one. So everybody that tells you that Doge is dipping into Social Security and they're doing all that, just ask them, show me where, and pull up the website. And so show me where they are taking any dollars from you. I'm going to show you where the waste, fraud, and abuse is. And if you're going to tell me you're fine with them, or you're not fine with them touching that money, you're talking to a lunatic. Because who in their right mind, any party, wants to make sure their dollars are going in the right place? And this is something that we have to be patient and kind when talking to these folks, because we're all in the same boat and we all love this country, I hope. And for those that don't, we need to silence them with our success, because nothing is better than a life well lived. No, there's no revenge better, in my opinion. But we've got to deal with this stuff, and we've got to deal with it now, because I have a Gen Z and a Gen Alpha, according to the timeline. And I want them both to be able to have the American dream. And I want them to fight for it. I want them to work hard for it. And I want them to be proud when they've achieved it. And it doesn't mean money necessarily, but that it does mean freedom, and it does mean success in their hearts. And that, to me, is a life well lived. But it certainly doesn't mean the government ripping them off and us knowing about it and doing nothing.
Well, Fred
like
says
generations before us.
Fred says any young man can become an electrician, plumber, welder, etc., and make bank after 5 years. Or woman, yeah, women right now. If you're a woman and you get into any of those fields, you will get a job over any man in those fields, just so they can say they have a woman on board. And it says the problem is they want to be CEO in a week. All right. Here's the question with that.
That's true.
So you can become a welder, average welder out here, probably. Well, as a person who works in the field, the wages, we haven't had a raise in the professional manual labor in 5 years. Has inflation stopped going up?
No.
Has
But
taxes?
Government employees get wages raises.
Has taxes stopped going up?
Nope.
Really? So
the government.
So
does.
let's say you step into that field and you're going to make the median for around here for a welder, honestly, probably 55 to 65,000 a year. Now take away the taxes. Now remember, overall taxes is probably 45, but closer to 55% of
you
your
counting your
income in the
sales
end.
tax?
Yeah. In
Okay.
the end. Yeah. So what does that look like then? So now take that 25 that's left, and your average apartment for around here is what? 22 grand. We'll just call it a 2 grand, right? That's your
I think
average
it's about
apartment.
1,500.
Really, I would like you to do a
But-
search right now, because I've looked over someone's search. Yes, as a former state trooper, you don't want to hear complaints about not getting raises. Also, let's not let Boomer show. We don't want to hear complaints about someone staring at it and saying, why am I going to work hard just to get nowhere? They may as well just check out.
I think it's a
Go start
mindset.
communes. But no, and seriously, no, you're
I think
right.
it's a mindset.
You're right. But in the end, they're going to be out there competing, and
I think it's the most ridiculous part, because I know how hard you work, and I know most of it, a lot of it's overtime,
oh yeah.
and I know how hard you work.
When they
That's
call
not a
me
question.
at midnight, and I'm there till
But
3 a.m. just the other
when
night.
every government meeting you see yearly where they're doing a cost of increase to the government employees because increase go up, cost of living increase, that pisses me off, because that's not being done in non-government buildings and businesses all over this country. And yet we're expected to pay more. And even, Mike Lee said it best. With inflation, the average American in this country is spending $700 more a month. How many people have $700 they can even spare, let alone for food or medicine? I mean, it's so ridiculous. So you can work as hard as you want. There's only so many hours in the day. When you're got inflation like this, and yet government employees get raises, government employees have secure jobs, and companies can't afford to keep employees, we're the generation that was raised to understand that we are replaceable. And then we're the generation that turned around and said, guess what? So's our employer. We're going to keep looking, because we got laid off at one point. We gave them 5 years. We gave them many years, and we were loyal, and they fired us or laid us off because they had to reconstruct bankruptcy or whatever. And they brought in people for less wages.
Yep. Or they took the old timer on the floor that trained everyone and left them there, and then hired new people at higher rates. That's happening a lot.
And those people had to train
because
those new people.
they've got to compete with the market out there, but they're.
And I think our generation turned around and said, if we're replaceable, so are you, and we're going to keep shopping. It used to be a really big deal for employers. And I used to hire people, and they would say, look, if they've worked 10 places, don't hire them. They're not going to stick around.
Mm-hmm.
And the mindset has changed now, where I'm like, I'm going to look at these places and see what value they bring when hiring them, because they have all this experience. And it's true. I went from working a regular job to going to a temp service because I knew I could learn all these different things just by showing up to different companies and working a few months at each and building my resume. Then I became more valuable when I started to shop for jobs. And I think that's so important. I think that's another generational thing that changed. Whereas millennials aren't looking for a job they work 30 years and retire.
Yeah, that's another thing is there is some things to be said about the left, where you go work at a place and you give 40 plus hours a week to barely make it. And we don't even have to go to the owner. The manager of the place is high on the hog. He's making triple what you're making. There's a little bit to be said about that. I mean, those arguments are coming to fruition. Those arguments are going to be coming to an election near you. And
it's true.
People are going to recognize that. And who's to say when AOC comes out and says, how you feeling about life? People don't look at her and go, let's give her a shot.
No, I can't see her doing anything on a national stage.
She's an excellent communicator.
So Fred says I had $700, but after property taxes
Yeah.
and homeowner insurance increases, it went away. That's just it. And do you guys remember when $700 was a mortgage payment? Because I still do.
Oh man. Yep. I remember.
We pay more than that just for insurance now.
I pay that much on 3 cars car insurance.
That's insane.
That is insane.
When Obamacare came out, our insurance went from $300 to $900, and our
Yep.
deductible went from $1,000 to $2,500 per.
Yep. Yeah.
And that was as much as our rent when we were renting an apartment.
You'll touch your deductible when you're getting chemo treatments or open heart surgery.
It's catastrophic at that point.
Yes.
But if they took the regulation off insurance companies and you could shop around the country and actually have competition,
Yep.
then then it's a game changer for the entire country.
Well, and Fred does a question here. He says, my 5 kids do have more difficult than I had it because of inflation and cost of housing. It's tough. Yes. But they still think they've got to eat out every day. But you've also got to look at this. If that dream is unattainable, maybe they're converting their dream to going, I'm going to eat good every day.
I think millennials kind of did that.
Right, because they're
said,
like, I'm not going to own a home.
I'm going to enjoy my life rather than stress about
I'm not
getting
gonna,
to the top.
I'm not going to own property. I'm not going to seek that. Things that we sought, they're like, I'm not going to seek that. I'm not going to seek to have. And look at right now, automobiles are not looked at as something you buy and try to make last. They're looked at as more like a laptop or a cell phone. They're something you get, you run it into the ground. It's a waste. You get rid of it and you figure out how to get another one.
These are the same people though buying Bitcoin, something they can't see, touch, or feel. But it's interesting.
It's a different psychology coming around.
Employees are making the company money. They eventually aren't making the company money. They eventually won't have a company.
It's a good point.
I agree with this because this is something that I think I learned as a young employee in the world was that my ability to do a great job made me valuable to the company and they would keep me on. And that the more money I made them, the more valuable I was. And I believed that and then got laid off because it's about the bottom line for a company. But I always believed in having loyalty and being extremely great at my job to make me valuable. I don't think young people think that way anymore. It's a job. They show up. I don't think they give everything to their company like we did when we were younger.
But companies don't. Well, and I don't even have to go anecdotal on this. Anyone right now can look at the statistics of pay. You can look at it from the 80s. There has been a gap between the owner class and the working class that has grown. It's grown to levels that anyone who studies history will tell you that there's a civil war right around the corner here because of it. And that's all I'm saying is while the owners kept saying, you know what, I got to make sure I buy that new yacht every year. So let's not give a raise down. Or like, certain companies around this country right now came down and said, they come down to all departments, says you need to figure out how to cut $5 million out of your department this year or whatever else, which is
they're
factually happening.
Shareholders, they're trying to appease.
Factually happening. But they didn't lose any of their overall profit last year. So they're coming down and say, you got to figure this out. I'm telling you, keep running that. I'm fine. I don't care.
Is it crazy?
I'm on the cancer retirement plan. Do whatever you want.
Well, yeah.
See how this pans out.
We need to,
because we'll have a 2-way rifle range and I'll sit back and eat the popcorn.
I think there should be no federal minimum wage.
I'm with you.
Because I think the minimum wage has stifled the working class.
That stifles the start.
Yeah. They don't have to compete. They can offer minimum wage as long as everybody's doing it. And then one company, look at before they made $15 an hour demands. Why? That if it doesn't make sense, why wouldn't a company just go electric or to computerized? It doesn't make sense. But if there's no minimum wage, then employees are going to shop around to businesses, and whoever pays them the most, that they like the most, is where they're going to go. And if a business can't afford them, then they're going to entice them another way. We're going to give you insurance. You're going to have paid vacation. That company's just paying you a little higher every month, every hour. We're going to give you $30,000 worth of insurance every year, something that company's not. The competition is the key. The free market works if it's real competition and not crony capitalism. But I really think that it's our generation got slapped in the face with reality coming out of college, I think. And we were the beginning of student loan debt. Millennials are knee deep in it, and Gen Z are head deep in it, and hopefully Gen Alpha will be zero debt. That we've either fixed it or, I mean, we've got to do something. And I hope by cutting the Department of Education, that's a start. Because those colleges will fund those loans no matter how much, and they can raise tuition every year ridiculously, though the education's not getting any better. It's actually getting worse. And they raise the cost of tuition, and nobody talks about it. Why is tuition $100,000 at colleges, and kids come out of school with a crap degree and debt out their ears that they'll be paying off the rest of their life? And it's because colleges guarantee those loans on an 18-year-old with no prospects yet.
No, the government.
Because the government is backing the
guarantees
loans.
that loan.
You and me.
Yeah.
And I think it still rings in my ear when we have a guest on here tell me that, yeah, we should. Which Biden paid off student loans against the Supreme Court. And I didn't hear the left talk about the executive branch overreaching on powers of equal powers. But they think it's fine that all of us should pay off student loan debt. That's insane. That's insane. They're going to do that. Pay off America's credit card debt because it's in the trillions, and it's because of inflation. And most of the stuff on those credit cards is probably food. And I'm not talking about, Uber Eats, which is now going to be financeable. Did you hear that?
Mm-mm.
Now they're allowing you to pay for your Uber Eats in 4 easy payments. Can you imagine?
Everything's going that way. We're a credit country.
But
all right.
You're paying for something that is going to be dissolved and gone the same day. But you're going to pay it with interest. It's
going to be flushed down the toilet as you pay for it. Anyways.
Which is credit cards anyway. A lot of people pay for credit cards.
We're a half hour over.
Okay.
Let's call it. Everyone, thanks for joining us. Have a wonderful weekend. Wonderful rest of the night. I don't know. I like the questions posed. I want to start going Socratic all the time. I want to question my own thoughts and beliefs, and that's why I think the Republicans need to question theirs. They need to make sure they're honed. Don't sit on your laurels.
Yeah, stay awake. And I would like for you all to please check out the Political Head Trauma page on Facebook and watch for the ads and stuff that we show you. So you can check out businesses that are supporting our channel.
Yeah, we got a couple coming down. Maybe hopefully save you some money. Go buy a Nissan. Get rid of those mosquitoes.
And take your kids to Patriot Camp. It's almost
booked.
Patriot Camp is another ad that should be on our page, and I'll share it. If not, it is something that I'm a part of,
kids,
and I love it so much. Yeah, volunteers get a big discount if they come volunteer, and their kids get a week at UMC, which is our biggest sponsor, and they have been phenomenal in letting us teach kids about the founding of our nation. We do it with many actors. In fact, I've seen people on Facebook be absolute animals, accusing Patriot Camp of being some racist. No, we teach about the founding in all aspects of the founding, and we do it for kids who are 6 years old to when they become teen leaders at 13 to 17. And it is done in a respectful way, and it's done with truth, and it's phenomenal. And we're working with Kim Tafiti to have a VR portion of our Patriot Camp, so that will be one of the classes they learn. And Carrie Bartholomew, she's been a guest on our show. She is a regular
Harriet
actor.
Tubman, doesn't she?
Yeah, she's Harriet Tubman. She's awesome, and the kids love it. And it's such a good time. The dates are June 2nd through the 6th. And go to Patriot Camps of America or Twila Valley Patriot Camp on Facebook and get booked now, because our classes are filling up, and it's 1 week, but it's so much fun. And we have 2 different camps open. So watch for the ad on our page, and please like and support it. And if you do, if any of you watch the show and you see on Twilla 411 or Grantsville where we've posted the Twilla Patriot Camp, please tell people, just tell people the founding was, maybe it wasn't pretty, but it was necessary. And it is the reason we actually have these debates, why this country is so great. Scars and all, we still are the greatest country in the world. We still are. And hopefully we keep heading down that path. And thank you for letting me have that time to talk about Patriot Camp.
Oh, of course. I want everyone to sign up. I want a whole bunch of little patriots following me around. All right, everyone, have a good weekend. Be safe. I'm going to